Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. Welcome to Real News Live. It is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday night edition without the usual crew. With there's only two members of the four normal crew, but we got Brian to come sit in with us again. I gave Steve the night off because I thought, well, wow. Steve's girlfriend's under the weather, and he's taking care of her. And I said, just take the night off. We got Blake, we got Brooks, we'll drag Brian in, and it'll be fine. And lo and behold, where is Dr. Brooks Agnew? We do not know where Brooks is, so we're waiting on him. See if he'll show up later. And we got to screw around here and BS a little bit while we wait for everybody to come in, because under the new restream system, it doesn't post the link on the YouTube channels before and then alert people. Why does it do that, Brian? What's going on with the restream? Am I missing something? What's happening?
No, you're not missing anything. I think Blake has given me a lot of grief on our agree to disagree shows. He's like, Brian, what are you doing? Are you sure you clicked the thing? It used to populate. Blake, you know what I'm talking about. You've complained about this too.
Yeah, it's different now because it used to promote the show beforehand, let people know that your show's upcoming, but it doesn't do that anymore. So now it just kind of just happens.
Well, of course, we have such a massive audience on this show.
Right.
They're well aware anyway that Tuesday nights at this time at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going live. There's not a damn thing anybody can do about it, and here we are, right? So, all right, I'm your host, Mike Barrett, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's go through the guys that have joined us tonight, starting with the guy right below us there, TV's Blake Wally, somewhere east of California, once again joining us, not from the strip club tonight. He's letting the assistant manager handle the strip club, handle the girls. It's such a problem. You got to keep those girls in line, and you got to make sure that there's plenty of tampons in the men's room at the strip club too, because you never know, right? I mean, you're a DEI guy, right, Blake? You hire men to pretend they're women, don't you, at your club?
That is just a rumor. No, there is no truth to that. I'm actually at a tattoo shop here in Western Virginia, Grizzly Tattoos.
Grizzly Tattoo. Let's give a shout out to them. If you need some ink, if you need some more occult symbols or alien shit, go to Grizzly. What is it called?
Grizzly's Tattoo. Yes.
Grizzly Tattoo.
In Western Virginia. Yes.
In Western Virginia, that's the place to go.
Western Virginia.
We can just
Western Virginia.
Gate City. All right.
All right. And what are you drinking tonight, Blake? I'm just drinking a little water and trying to get hydrated because it was 100 fucking degrees here again. Wow. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, I don't miss that. Actually, tonight I'm going to be drinking water too. It's been a long day. We've been out towards this hurricane sort of area, digging into that story. So we're checking it out, and the people were kind enough to let us crash here and document this amazing event here. So yes, water tonight for me.
All right, and of course the tertiary member of the team, the third wheel, the guy who goes out with the married couple and is on his own. Brian Engelman, also in the Grizzly Tattoo Shop somewhere in Western Virginia. Brian, how you doing tonight? What are you drinking? Oh, there you go.
I'm doing great. Let me show you this. This is a Grizzly original right here. It's a 1 of 1, and I just look at that eagle. Look at how cool, like that southwestern style. I love that eagle so much. Come and get a tattoo. Yeah, we're here in Gate City, Virginia. We went on an expedition through Tennessee and into North Carolina, and we were delivering 2 vehicles full of supplies, lots of supplies that have kind of worked their way through a civilian daisy chain of grassroots volunteerism, because it's not like FEMA is really organized in any particular way helping these particular people. The people kind of feel a bit abandoned. They're taking matters into their own hands, a lot of generosity, a lot of out of pocket. But yeah, we're checking that out. And of course, Blake and I do the Agree to Disagree show Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then Mike and I do Strictly Football on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. And we had special guest Blake Wally last week because he has his still undefeated Minnesota Vikings.
That's right.
He wanted to represent his team. Blake, you're 5-0, dude. How did you become 5-0? And how can you teach the Browns to do the same?
Yeah.
It's been a very surprising start. Very happy with that. Nobody would have predicted that. I don't think I would have. Nick Swartzen did, the comedian. He's predicted 5-0, so he's going strong on record. It's hilarious, but hey, it's coming true. So I'm all for it. Sorry about your Browns, man.
Huh? Yeah, I know my Browns are terrible. By the way, I'm drinking just water. It's been a long day in the car, in the mountains, and a lot.
Yeah. We are an exciting bunch. I wanted to talk about the hurricane from last week. Hurricane Martha. What is it? What was it? Hurricane
Milton, or what is it now? Yeah, I'm already forgetting.
There's a new hurricane coming, but
look it up.
Yeah. Anyway,
Dr. Brooks is on his way. It looks like. So
okay, cool.
We'll expect him shortly.
But we all went to. I don't think Brian's been there, but Blake, you and me and Brooks have already all been there at Spruce Pine, North Carolina, and I wanted to share a picture that was sent to me from one of the residents, and Blake, the white building there on the left is Beer Docks, where we had beers 2 years ago and last year, and sat around and drank with Brooks and everybody, and Mark Zerfoss came, and his son and his dad, and then just a couple buildings up the street towards us from that would be the restaurant we had a really nice dinner at, and then this is the thing in the middle is like the train station. And the first year I was there in 2019, they had a stage set up down there and everything. It was all underwater a few days ago, and the horrible thing too is it looked to the right there. Actually, there's a valley there. It drops off. So anybody who lived in there or had buildings down there, that is just gone. That went completely underwater. And it is really quite extraordinary. Oh, there's Brooks. Hi, Brooks. Glad to have you here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Sorry about that. I had a long day and I spaced.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no excuses.
Three of us were in North Carolina today, Brooks.
Really?
Yeah, we were close. We drove right past that Spruce Pine area.
There you are, Brian.
Yeah, Spruce Pine got hit.
The picture I'm showing on the screen right now, Brooks, is Spruce Pine, North Carolina. I got it from Jimmy, who organized the original show there. 2019. You were there, right? You were there the first year, or just the last two?
Last two.
Just the last two. But that white building there is Beer Docks, where we went and had beers. One of the buildings further up the road there is going to be the breakfast place where we had breakfast, and the restaurant that we ate at a couple years ago is up there to the left, and it was all underwater as of a couple of days ago. So the devastation is just really extraordinary, and it's a shame. I mean, I don't know if the town survives. I don't know how many people are going to be there. I doubt there's going to be any UFO festival there. And in solidarity, I'm wearing one of my Spruce Pine UFO Festival T-shirts that I was gifted from the last one. So it's really awful. And FEMA ain't helping much. That's the thing. You get into this, and it's very clear from what happened. There's extraordinary things going on. Let's go over to the other Twitter feed, and this is a video of a civilian camp. People that wanted to help the residents of North Carolina, and they got taken out by our own government, FEMA. Watch this helicopter doing a number on this civilian base, trying to bring relief efforts to the people of North Carolina.
By the way, you know what's going to happen.
Helicopter. Now, I'm just going to say this. We need to find out who the pilot of this is, because he and whoever gave him orders to do that, or even suggested that he do that, needs to go to jail for a minimum of 20 years. In my opinion, it was literally an attack on people trying to help their fellow citizens when they're dying by, according to reports, the thousands. So, Brian and Blake, let's start with you, Blake, and then go to Brian and then Brooks. You're on the ground there. Do you think the death toll is as high from what you've seen? Do you think it'll be as high as people are saying in the 3, 4, 5,000 range?
Yeah, it could be, because they haven't even gotten to some of these places, because it's rugged territory and these mudslides, and some of these cities got hit harder than others. We're trying to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, it might have been a big reservoir that overflowed, and I think there was a lot of rain beforehand, so everything was already saturated. Then you have this massive tropical storm at the same time. This
Hold the mic up.
Is
Hold the mic up.
down, and some of these towns just got hit with so much water. The water lines are just in staggering places, and as you saw with the beer docks, I hope they can somehow salvage that. But once that water gets into those buildings and that infrastructure, it's not good.
Yeah,
So
it's usually a teardown at that point. And beer docks actually had closed a week or so before. They just closed up because they weren't doing enough business, and now it's even worse. And I don't know if Spruce Pine's going to survive. Brian, what are your thoughts on what you've seen? Do you think that the estimates of death tolls as high as 2, 3, 4,000 are real? The government, the FEMA, the people who buzzed a camp of private citizens trying to help their fellow Americans, deliberately damaged them to prevent them from helping their fellow Americans. Do you believe their death totals of like 200 victims? I think I hear it's far more than that.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. A lot of the locals were willing to share their stories. Maybe they weren't as willing to go on camera, and they didn't want to be seen as someone that's putting something out there if it turns out to not be quite accurate. But the stories that people are sharing are very similar. Mike, as well as anybody about the Ancient Alien series. Each continent has holy books about beings from the heavens descending from chariots of fire from the stars. And it's like, okay, well, they're all kind of saying a similar version of a story. But yeah, we're hearing that 15,000 missing or unaccounted people, piles of more than 1,000 bodies, and there's no refrigeration trailers to keep them. And it's going to reach the point very quickly, if it hasn't already, that the remains will be unidentifiable. Hearing that if they are unable to identify a body, they are then technically able to withhold reporting that number. So almost like they're withholding a ton of names and numbers as long as possible, maybe to get through an election season, not entirely sure. But there's a lot of skepticism about the quartz mines. There's skepticism about the lithium mines. There's skepticism about how in the world did this hurricane go so far inland and dump so many trillions of gallons of water in this one exact spot. There's a lot of concern about that. Now, today, Blake and I were able to get the tour from Grizzly here, and we went to a few areas right around this area where you were showing the photographs. We went past a high school. The high school and the football field and the concession stands and everything were all just twisted and mangled. That whole school was removed. We hit a valley, getting off of one route onto another, and he went, "Oh my God!" He's like, "There used to be 4 or 5 houses right here, and there was nothing." So, I mean, we've seen flipped over cars. I mean, this is 2 weeks in, and we're still seeing a lot of stuff. But they have definitely put up barriers around the worst, most hardest hit areas. They really don't want people going in there. But we are getting reports that FEMA's confiscating supplies that are going in to help people that haven't received any other help. So, there's a lot of rotten stench around here. Unfortunately, some of it is because they're not recovering and retrieving the bodies quickly enough. And then the rest of the stench is from the official stories they're hearing from FEMA and the federal government. So the people are not happy and they need more help. They need more support down here for sure.
Yeah, and there are buzzards circling all over in North Carolina, feeding off the dead bodies of, I guess, animals and humans. It is a horrendous situation. Dr. Brooks Agnew, what are your thoughts on the situation? And kind of looks to me like, Spruce Pine ain't coming back, at least not anytime soon, if people even stay in the area. Because, I mean, Beer Docs, the ceiling in there was 20 feet high. I mean, that was at least 10 feet high. If we'd have been in the bar, we would have been 6 feet underwater, I think, right?
Yep. Well, I had a little bit of, damage on my property. I had to replace the windshield in my truck and had some trees down. Fortunately, none of the buildings were damaged. I went up to Lenore on Sunday. It's about as close as I could get up there. And what I'm going to report to you is not what you're hearing in the news. There are 750,000 people that were displaced. It's an area the size of the country of Belgium. That's how broad this area is. And this, as Blake was saying, is all mountainous region. This is the mountains of the Appalachia. And when you put roads in this area, you put them where you can, which is usually where the rivers have gone. So you put the road by the river, the town grows by the road. And so when all this rain falls on the mountains, the rain runs downhill, fills the creeks fill the river, and then it comes raging down the way and wipes everything out in its path. Now, you're hearing 200 dead. That is not true. One tractor trailer, a refrigerator truck came down, had 1,200 bodies in them. Now, they haven't been identified yet, but we're estimating the dead is going to be somewhere around 20,000. 20,000. And one thing you have to understand about this area of North Carolina, all of it, except for Asheville, all of it is Trump country. So we're talking about the equivalent of 7 major cities. And yes, FEMA is confiscating things. I had a friend that was trying to deliver a pallet of chainsaws. They got confiscated. I have another friend that had consolidated a half a tractor trailer load of generators. They got confiscated. FEMA helicopters and trucks went into Greenville Airport. Greenville Airport's running operations out of there, and they blocked the runway. So all the helicopters landed on the runway, and the trucks blocked the way so that they couldn't use the airport anymore for services. So they had accumulated a lot of support stuff there. People had brought to the airport to run out. And what happened was the local Harley-Davidson dealership, their dealership got filled with mud. Yes, a lot of motorcycles were ruined, but they shoveled the mud out. And then this ex-Special Forces guy who owns the Harley-Davidson dealership went to the airport, told those helicopter pilots, you can run operations off my parking lot in my field. So they ran all day long. They ran until the police showed up. And the police said, you're going to have to shut these down. FAA's not made clearance for this. And he said, you get off my land. By the way, get out of the way. I got a helicopter coming in right now and another one getting ready to take off. And they're still running operations 24 hours a day out of that Harley-Davidson dealership. So another FEMA guy who tried to stop relief from going up there, they just took him and they kicked his ass. He's in the hospital. Yeah, well, I'm glad they did that. I wish they had gone all the way. And I really think until we start, I don't know, turning FEMA camps into Calvary Hill, let's say, until we start doing that, I don't think these guys are going to get the fucking message. And just for perspective, by the way, I'm sure this episode's going to get me banned off YouTube, just to be sure. So I don't give a fuck anymore. 20,000 people, just for perspective, 3,500 died in 9/11, and we went to war for 20 years over that. So what are we going to do about this and this complete, I would say incompetence, but we all know it's not incompetence. It is a deliberate neglect
of American citizens because they're not our people and because we don't want them voting for Donald Trump because we want to try to steal the state of North Carolina. I think there's a very little chance of that now, no matter how many of us you kill. But it's, this is extraordinary. This is not, Jim Jordan, a fucking committee meeting about this is not enough. These people need to be arrested, rounded up. All the FEMA people, I think, should be rounded up. If I was the governor of the state, unfortunately, it's a Democrat because they stole that seat too a couple years ago. Were I the governor, I would send in the National Guard. I would arrest everybody from FEMA. I would put them in a camp and probably just concrete over them like at Chernobyl. Brian, you had something you wanted to say. Sorry, I got off on a rant there.
No, it's fine. There's a couple of key points. If we think back to Hurricane Katrina, remember that was a pretty bad one. Just quickly off the top of your heads, does anyone happen to remember what the death toll was for Katrina?
I have no idea.
1,400.
Yeah,
1,400. So I took a report.
The ninth ward was completely wiped out. And by the way, with Katrina, the mayor of Louisiana ended up going over to jail over that.
The
governor was removed.
Yeah, and they had all the buses at the lowest point on the property. But I took a report that it was this weekend. It was either Friday or Saturday that this is a secondhand report. He's known him for 15 years, really good friend, trusts what he says. And he was on search and recovery. And he said in one particular area in this one particular region, in one day, they had more than 1,000 bodies on one day in one area. So, you're hearing 20,000. We're hearing 13 to 15,000 missing and unaccounted for. Look, we're just putting the puzzle pieces together, but it sure as hell isn't 200. It's starting to become strange why we're not getting more accurate information, why they're completely walling off cities, while they're confiscating our supplies. And
they tried to stop Starlink from going in there because they didn't want people to communicate as well.
Yeah, they're trying to stop Elon Musk from bringing Starlink in as well. So now, you guys, we have Hurricane Milton coming into Florida. DeSantis has basically told the feds to get the fuck off his lawn, which I got to give DeSantis some credit for. He's responded at least a little bit in that way, given what a terrible simp and traitorous backstabbing presidential candidate he was. But you got to give him some credit for standing up now to these fuckers. And Blake, I guess, as I look at this situation, there's another hurricane coming to Florida. People are saying, these are generated hurricanes. Now, look, I've done some research into this, and I think there is technology that can manipulate the weather. I don't think there's any question about that. But if you look at a chart that was created, and it was fascinating to me because in the vice presidential debate last week, which we covered, we all talked about how they didn't really bring anything up about North Carolina. North Carolina hardly got any discussions, but they had a big long thing about fucking climate change, which, by the way, doesn't exist. Here's a chart that shows you the history of very intense Florida hurricanes from 1900 to 2024, their magnitude, their wind speed, and as you can see, the graph goes basically right down the middle. Hurricane Helene is pretty much a little bit above that chart, but it wasn't dramatically worse than other hurricanes. In fact, it was nowhere near the worst one. Andrew and the 35 Labor Day hurricane were the same, and there was a hurricane that I read about, and I have to go back and research which one of these named storms it was. But there was one that in 1968 or 69 or 67, in the late 60s, it dumped so much rain in Tennessee that birds drowned in the trees. They literally couldn't get air and they drowned in the tree. And so I guess the question I'm getting to here on this is why are our priorities so completely effed up on this, and why are people not in prison already? I don't get it, Blake. I mean, I don't get it. Explain it to me.
Yeah, we don't get it either because FEMA, if things were ideal, they would be coming in and they would be aiding the locals, right? They'd be helping out with their expertise, but instead they've been completely weaponized against us, and so now confiscating supplies, or they're not allowing people to go do what they want to go save their loved ones because they haven't had the proper training or what have you. They're rolling out the red carpet for illegal immigrants. They're giving them everything in the budget, but then they don't seem to care about our own citizens. So yeah, the federal government has been weaponized against the American people. At the very minimum, they should be defunded about 50% overnight, and see what we're going to do with them and why this has been corrupted like this. It's so many of these different agencies, and I don't know how they're going to act with this next one, Milton, going through Florida. It looks, I don't want to go into the conspiracy theory. We can, because everyone's talking about this, weather weapons or what have you. Maybe they've been knowing about this. They've been admitting this since at least the 70s, I believe. So it's really not science fiction anymore. But without going off the rails, you've got bad timing. They don't have fuel. They're trying to evacuate, but there's not enough gasoline at the stations.
There are patents out there, and I've retweeted a lot of them this week. There's a lot of patents for how to do this kind of stuff. But the reality is that Helene was no worse than your standard hurricane that's occurred over the last 125 years. At least that's what the chart says. But I guess what happens is if it stalls, and the amount of rain in it can be very damaging and cause all the flooding. Before we go to Brian Brooks, real quick, you probably know a lot about the weather modification stuff and HARP and all that. What do you think about the theory? And it was funny because there's people on my Twitter feed that were like, "Oh, if you believe that, just unfollow me." And so then I just kept posting the guy all the patents for weather modification. He went after Marjorie Taylor Greene for saying it, and she has her issues, but being truthful about that isn't one of them.
Well, we've known since 1947, because we've demonstrated it, that we can steer hurricanes by dropping ice crystals ahead of the storm. It tends to pull the storm toward the ice crystals. And we also know from airplane flight patterns for Helene that this hurricane changed course 3 times, west, then east, then west, then back. Normally what happens with these storms is they come up on the western side of the Appalachia. They dump in the Cumberland, the upper Cumberland, which is mostly a national park. But the Cumberland is built to take that kind of rain. It has a lot of big rivers, and it has a big way of absorbing a lot of water. This one came up on the east side of the mountains, and so it dumped its water in the mountainous area that just didn't have any way to deal with that. I have lots of friends that lost houses, lost boats, they didn't lose their lives, of course, but it's going to be years before they financially come back from it. And of course, the federal government underwrites all flood insurance, and they make flood insurance in this region of the country prohibitively expensive. Like it's $1,000 a month. Nobody buys it. So a lot of these people lost, everything, their home. Some people lost the actual land, the actual mountain just sloughed away, and they have no money. They have no way to get their stuff back. That's a natural disaster. I'm not saying anything about how the hurricane was steered or generated or intensified or any of that. That can be argued for decades. What is inarguable is the federal response. Now, the federal response is not just incompetent. We're not just talking about another Cheadle here not knowing what to do. We're talking about conscious efforts to stop.
Yeah, we just looked at it. They sent an unmarked helicopter out to attack a civilian base camp that was trying to get aid to people. That's treason. Sorry, shoot them down. Sorry.
Well, there's always that. But what you've done is you've pissed off 750,000 mountain people, and it's the reverberations are going throughout the world, and it's really, really hurting the Camelites.
Come swallow Horace, yeah.
With the blue collar worker, because the blue collar worker really identifies with the people of Appalachia, coal miners, and like Blake was bringing up, the lithium deposits that are there are not unique. I mean, there's lithium in Afghanistan, there's lithium in Nevada, but there's one thing that is unique about this area, and Mike and I know about this intimately. It's the quartz.
Mm-hmm.
The quartz under these mountains is so pure. It is the only source known on Earth for this pure quartz that's used for the AI chips.
And then just conveniently, BlackRock is already moving in to buy up all the land from the people at pennies on the dollar, who will probably be grateful just to have enough cash to go move somewhere else, like maybe to Knoxville, Tennessee. Brian, any thoughts on any of this stuff that you've heard? I know you're probably the least conspiratorial of the group, so let us know what you think of all this.
Man, we are coming up on Halloween. I'm glad that I wear my mask so well.
Yeah, all right.
No, I'm head over heels in all this stuff. Just because when you start doing a B, C, D, E, F, G question sheet, and it's like, well, what if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? You start doing a process of elimination, and we're left with some really crazy situations. And you can call it a conspiracy or something derogatory if you want, but I just call it analyzing the data. And I just want to know how we're being told. It's like, look, we've done everything that we can do. We have budget limitations, and look, we got to be ready because there's other stuff coming. Sorry, like we've given everything we have to give, and then you see that the United States is going to be providing $157 million in humanitarian assistance to support the populations affected by conflict in Lebanon and the region.
Yeah.
Where is this money for the people who lost everything? Get them a plot of land. Get them your FEMA house, get them a tiny house, get them some sort of something, get them up and going, get these people. No. We need to put $157 million in Lebanon instead of North Carolina. Make it make sense. That's MAGA versus Democrat. That's MAGA versus deep state. That's MAGA versus globalist.
Literally on the same day that all of this stuff was coming to light, they give $157 million to Lebanon. And let me be the first to say, and I think I speak for everybody on this show, fuck Lebanon, fuck Israel, fuck Ukraine, fuck all of them. All that money needs to be spent here. And by the way, we all know this. I said this on my show earlier today with Andy Scheckman from Miles Franklin, link in the description if you want to buy gold or silver. Why is there any problem at all? Joe Biden said that's all we can give you is $750 a person.
Loan. It's a loan.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second.
$1 billion. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Because we're hearing that it's a loan, and if you don't pay it back, they can seize your land. What have you heard about that, Brooks?
That's correct. It is an assistance loan, and by the way, they're turning down about 45% of the people that apply for it.
Yeah.
If you're not already on public assistance, you won't qualify because that's how equity-based assistance helps. That's how they distribute that.
It's also true that Kamswala Horace's husband, Doug Emhoff, who likes to beat up the nanny, slap her around a little bit, and bang her when wife's not around, is heavily invested in Vanguard and BlackRock, which owns the land and is positioned to buy up all the land from this natural disaster. So, I'm a conspiracy theorist. It says on my bio, born again conspiracy theorist. So let me ask you guys, I am 100% in on this being a directed attack on the people of North Carolina. It was that maybe a storm formed, and I thought, oh great, we can pump this thing up and really cause a lot of chaos and screw a lot of people over that are not our friends. And they did it. On a scale of, I don't know, 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely metaphysically it's a conspiracy, and 1 being there's not a chance it's a conspiracy. The Seahawks lost because they just suck in Super Bowl 40. What do you guys think? 10 conspiracy, 1 not a conspiracy? Blake, let's start with you.
I'm gonna go with 9. Yeah, because it's a double win. Because it's fleshing out that MAGA part of Western North Carolina, and then buying up all that land, or somehow getting a hold of it right in front of the election. And I think that contracts for mining maybe next year. I'm not exactly sure how all of that ties together, but certainly they're all entwined, all the big players. So yeah, they probably have the access to technology. They certainly have the motive to do it. And they know they can just, call it conspiracy theory, or they can blame it on climate change to crack down further. But yeah, I'm 9, easy.
By the way, I'm going to try to get as many comments as I can from the Rumble side, which is very active tonight. I just noticed on here, and I'm just going to do it like it's going to come up with a username like that, verified or whatever. Brooks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how conspiratorial are you about this this whole thing, the way it went down?
13.5.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that they just took advantage of the storm every way that they could. The FEMA that's down here is trying to stop efforts. And by the way, the local sheriffs have now made public statements. Any federal employee that impedes rescue aid and comfort will be arrested.
Good. Well, that's good. Brian, let's see if we can make it a quorum here. What's your level of conspiracy thinking after you're there, you're on the ground? What do you think? You think this is planned, or you think it's just coincidental?
Yeah. Okay. I guess you were right, Mike. I am the least conspiratorial among us, but I will still give it a solid 7 out of 10 because I know they can, and I know that they're desperate, and I know that they know that the American people hate them. And I know that they know that it's pure desperation. Would they try something like this? I mean, I looked at the hurricane season. Hurricane season's already ended, by the way. That's from June 1st to November. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I think it is still going. My apologies, but I'd say it's a 7. I think it's possible. But even when I watch that helicopter video, I go, is there any other answer? Were they confused? Did they go down? They didn't know people were going to be there. Is there any other possibility where that helicopter wasn't intentionally shooting all that debris at the people? Maybe we're just taking a clip out of context. I try to always consider a situation slowly, but it just, something stinks here. Something feels off. And everybody that we were talking to off camera, they had a similar vibe to them. They just didn't really want to get on camera and be the ones. I don't want to be saying what I'm hearing, because what if it doesn't turn out to be true? But like all my people are saying this. They don't feel right about this either. However, I did ask, I said, your grandparents, I specifically, are there legends of something like this happening in this area? And they said, well, 1916, a little more than 100 years ago, they remembered something this big, something along this line. So, maybe humanity goes through these cycles, and maybe we just easily forget them. Now, if everything's documented, it'll be easier to kind of keep it on record moving forward. But I'd say a 7 out of 10.
Okay, so that puts the median at about 9.5 or 10. So we're right there, and definitely in agreement. There's some sort of conspiracy for about 150 years, really, in a kind of systematic way. And in a lot of cases, thermometers didn't work very well, and so it's all very relative and very interesting.
And by the way, one more really quick point. My dad brought this up. He's like, he was in the 60s or the 70s, and he was living outside of his home, but his parents had their place flood outside of Indiana, Pennsylvania. And everything, all the homes on the hillsides, they all washed away. They were shoveling mud out of their cellar, their root cellar, for a week straight. And that's not something that happens all the time. But like, if you go back far enough, these things can happen. So I don't know. I don't know if it was intentional, but it's definitely not common. And it just shows how vulnerable all of us are. So that's why it was so nice to see like the humanity coming together in their own screwed FEMA supply chain systems outside of the scope of the federal government. I did appreciate seeing that.
Blake, looks like you have something you want to say to add to this. No,
that was.
I will say this about that, as Nixon used to say. Let me say this about that. That helicopter was not just accidentally buzzing that camp and wrecking it. He was trying to wreck it. And he needs to go to jail for a minimum of 20 years because he's interfering in life-saving operations of American citizens with deliberate malice aforethought. So you can fucking rot in jail for the rest of your life. I want to find out who this guy is. The thing is, Brooks, with everything that's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, I have so much revenge built up in me. So many, Ashley Babbitt, the guy, Michael Bird, who killed Ashley Babbitt, that fucker needs to roast. I mean, I want to bring back the thing that the Romans had, the bull, the iron bull that they heated up with a fire and put the guy inside. Yeah, I want to bring that back for some of these people. I can't believe what is happening in this country, and I can't believe there isn't more outrage. Or if you are outraged, they say you're promoting hate speech or you're being violent. Well, yeah, who made us violent? I think it's time to make the French Revolution great again, Blake.
Well, yes, I guess I would add to that for the case of conspiracy. The other thing is that they are treating the people like garbage, like they don't want to be there, and they're against them. So if they actually came in like really trying to help, like, oh my God, we were blindsided by that. Another thing that they were mentioning is that there was no like emergency warning of this.
Right.
So people didn't get like an alert on their phone or anything, like, brace for impacts, severe weather coming in. Like if people went to bed and then this thing just came in the middle of the night, they woke up and it was a different world.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. That is pretty wild stuff. Brooks, did you have another thought you wanted to add, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing about civil war starting in this country. This is what starts civil wars. These mountain people are not to be messed with. They're going to survive. They aren't. A lot of them where the roads are cut off. The people are up there in the mountains, and yeah, they can't get out, but you can't get in either. Once they are reconnected with society and they start showing up on our podcasts and showing up on news broadcasts, this is the kind of shit that starts civil wars. When you see an organized effort by Alejandro Mayorkas, and I believe this is under orders from the White House, to intentionally make it where 750,000 people who are all Trump supporters, I wouldn't say they were all voters, but I'd say 250,000 of them were voters.
Yeah.
Make a way where they cannot vote, because you can't vote outside your county. That's illegal in North Carolina. You have to vote in your county, in your precinct. If they can't get that up and running again, we've been talking about delaying the election or not having the election at all. That's what happened. They ended the election for these people. They took them out of the presidential election. And that many people off the voter rolls is enough to swing this state.
Well, that just makes me want to make the French Revolution great again. Even more. Blake, any other thoughts, or you good? All right. Why don't we pivot to a little bit of politics? Because otherwise I'm going to lose my shit right here on screen and go run out and go postal right here in my own community of Las Vegas, Nevada. And don't swap me, please, for that. Donald Trump held a rally this weekend on Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of the first assassination attempt against him in July. And just to give you a little perspective on this, I'm watching this, and the most extraordinary thing I see is it says, Trump holds rally at site of first assassination attempt. That was the chyron. As if that is the most, that is actually something normal. I mean, imagine reading that headline 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Trump holds rally on the site of his first assassination attempt. How insane is it to even be reading that information? That somebody tried to assassinate a candidate for president who's been president before. And not only that, they've done it twice now in 3 months. And it's like they act like the most bizarre stuff, guys, the most bizarre stuff is now becoming normalized. And I think it creates, Brooks, it's what you went to, it creates a powder keg. It's creating a powder keg. There are a lot of people who feel the same way that we all do about this. But anyway, here's Donald Trump opening up his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Let's watch and listen.
As I was saying,
that's a great line. That's a great line.
As I was saying,
the first thing he does is he turns and he shows the slide that he was reading from when he got shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And you know, I want to be like able to laugh about this. And I guess that was the point about the Chiron. I'm not. And are any of you able to laugh about it? And what do you think about I just think if you don't believe that we are in biblical times, in the sense that we are in times that are going to be recorded in history talked about for 1,000 years or 2,000 years, I don't think I want to come live with you because you're living on another planet, and I want to know what it's like to live on another planet. Blake?
No, you're absolutely right. If something would have happened to Trump, I can't. I hate to think of what kind of like parallel world that would be, where we might be on the edge of civil war, if not already in one. I don't know how we would take something like that. If they're locking up patriots in gulags in DC, and then they shoot the leader, it might be a real revolution. It's to that point, and you're saying they're trying to normalize this. This is their enemy, and the establishment is calling out their enemy and demonizing all of his supporters. So, and you never know what else they're going to try to do between now and the election, and then perhaps the inauguration. If we have an election, it's going to be very, very hairy for the next several months. So,
well, I mean, Brooks has been saying all along we're not going to have an election. I just heard some stuff offline today that's I can't really talk about from people that I think are probably very connected, and I'm beginning to agree with you, Brooks. Brian, any thoughts on just how fucking bizarre the planet is that we're living on right now?
I heard this recently, and I just want to share it with you. It says, the most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of the men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those that they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, the lives as they have lived them are over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a small form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be, which is why, when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those that are merely play acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at the left's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but it will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who wanted to be left alone. That is something that I've heard recently, and I feel like this taps into the zeitgeist of people who have been pushed around and pushed around and pushed around.
Yep. Brooks, I know the militias, there's a lot of militias coming out now to, it seems like, protect the people of these areas and confront the feds. Are we at that tipping point that he just talked about, that Brian just so eloquently shared, but somebody else wrote, but Brian shared? A good job, Brian. It was a great reading. But are we at that point where you have now pushed the men who just wanted to be left alone a little too far?
Well, yeah, we are at that point. Fortunately, FEMA and the federal forces are backing off. A lot of the FEMA's gone home. I know that they were trying to put people up in hotels. All the hotels are booked up by federal employees who are just trying to push papers. This bureaucracy, this rule by bureaus, is about to come crashing down with the overturning of the Chevron decision, and a lot of people realizing that agencies don't have the power, don't have the authority to write laws. FEMA does not have the authority to do what they are doing. And once these people come down out of these hills, or once they go up into those hills to try to enforce something, it's going to be the shot heard around the world. I can just tell you, this is not a neighborhood. This is a country.
Seems to me there was 17 post with that title, "The Shot Heard Around the World," if I'm not mistaken. Interesting stuff. Okay. I just think we're in times that are so extraordinary, and to even
Can I make one more quick point on the Trump thing, though? Bravo. He went right back and threw 2 double-barreled middle fingers back at people and brought Elon with him. Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I was having a conversation with somebody, and they prefaced with what I'll hear often about Donald Trump. They'll go, "Look, the guy's not perfect. He's far from perfect, but in this election, and I said, hold on a second. I said, I'm not going to say he's a perfect guy, but he's perfect for this moment. I couldn't imagine anybody else going back to Butler and going, so as I was saying." And brings Elon Musk on stage on top of it. Come on.
As I was saying, I can't do Trump. As I was saying.
When the medical emergency happened, the crowd spontaneously broke into singing the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opera singing at the end was so powerful. Just unbelievable. I don't know how many people were there. They're saying 60,000. It was the biggest.
I've heard 70, as much as 70. Yeah.
I mean, it was way bigger than the original event. They screwed up.
Yeah. You know what? One Tennessee boy over there on Rumble. Thanks for chiming in on this. Let's just remind everybody, this is going to be our motto. Okay. They drew first blood. They drew first blood, sir.
First blood. Yeah.
They drew first blood. They drew first blood, and they absolutely did. Okay, our buddy Vincent Fusca was also there. There was some video where he got moved to a different position, and it's really interesting because he sat behind the guy who sang the opera. What is it, Nessun Dorma or something? From the end of the Sum of All Fears. What is it? What's the symbolism of that from your perspective, Brooks?
It was sung in the movie The Sum of All Fears at the very end. It symbolizes all the bad guys have been found, the plot has been thwarted, and revenge is being taken.
Yeah.
It means we will win. That's what the song is about.
At the dawn, we will win, we will win, we will win.
Right.
Well, I mean, that I think that's an admirable it's an admirable thought, but we got a long way to go before we win. And it's, if
we win, even if Trump wins the election, it's just going to intensify the war because they're not going to accept the election.
Yeah.
They're going to do everything they can do to stop him from being inaugurated. Even at the inauguration, it's going to be a conflict. And even after he's inaugurated, they will fight with everything they have. But they are no longer going to have the authority. Trump will have the authority.
But let me say, if
is going to deal the blow.
I just think if this thing can be convincing, they will have to shut up and sit down. If it's stupid close again, this is not going to be good for anyone. It has to be the blowout that the Democrats have earned.
Yeah,
that's all this has to be. It has to be a mandate.
It's not going to be.
Kamala's never won a vote in her life. No one has ever voted for her.
Well, that's not true, and she did win some Senate seats, but there was probably massive fraud there too. But she probably would have won anyway. Anyway, in other news, which is important stuff, that they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats, and he was mocked for it. Well, guess what? We have new video from Springfield, Ohio, and they're eating the dogs. They're eating. I can't do Trump, but they're eating the dogs. This is disgusting. Look away if you don't want to watch it. Here is a dog or a cat that this migrant from Haiti or wherever is cutting up a family pet, and it's just awful. It's just disgusting, and there's some stuff going on now where Kamswala is saying, well, these are legal migrants. No, they're not. They came in illegally, and then they passed some very questionable executive orders, which I think still remain to be challenged, basically saying, well, we're going to grant you asylum here and make you legal. These are not legal immigrants. They all came here illegally. They're all criminals. Brian, when you see shit like this, it makes me sick to my stomach, and I can't say what I want to do to that guy.
2 points. Number one, this is what we talked about. God, was it a week ago? Was it really a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago for the vice presidential debate? It feels like a million years ago, honestly.
It was only a week.
It was only a week? I feel like Trump was shot like 2 decades ago. Let me say this. I think it was J.D. Vance during the vice presidential debate that rammed through the fact-checking. And it wasn't so much fact-checking as disingenuous framing of a situation.
Can you bring me a water when you get a chance?
It showed that there's a way to take the narratives and spin them around. And this was one that Trump took a lot of grief for. But look, I'm a guy that has spent a lot of time in my community. In Los Angeles, I worked a TNR program, Chat Neuter Return. We trapped about 135 stray cats in the neighborhood. And we found about 40, 50 of them permanent indoor homes, foster programs. We spayed neutered them, and then we fixed the outdoor living situations. I hate seeing any harm come to a dog or a cat outdoors. I hate everything about this. But yeah, J.D. Vance put it back in their face and said, no. Kamala, they pushed this iffy thing, and they're trying to claim that this is legal. No. They are absolutely circumventing the legal immigration policy 100%. And I'm glad that Vance stuck through, and I think it was a masterful job how he was able to correct that in real time and not let her get away with it, because she's like, I'm sorry, we have a lot that we need to get through. And J.D. Vance impressed me a lot with that. But yeah, we got to clarify what this illegal immigration situation is, because it's about shared culture, shared experiences, qualified drivers, insurance rates being low, safety of the community. None of this is being taken into account, which means none of the stuff that's being done is anything we should tolerate.
They're eating the dogs. Blake, I'm getting better. I'm working on my truck. They're eating the dogs. Big D. Okay, Blake, that's a good point, because having these people in these communities is going to destroy property values. It's going to raise insurance rates. And I'm sorry, okay? Let me just say this. I'm an American, okay? I'm a fucking white American, okay? And I don't want to live in a community with people that chop up dogs and cats for food with a fucking machete. I want them out of my country. I do. No apologies. No apologies necessary, but no apologies. Blake, am I crazy for thinking that and worrying about these other things?
No, not at all. I mean, we are a country of immigrants, but there's a process for this. They need to be screened. They can't be incompatible cultures. You can't import the third world, or as Trump says, you become the third world. So this is not good stuff. A temporary refugee status, but they are taking America down. And so they have ruined immigration for the people that are trying to come in here properly, and then dumping people that should not be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Brooks, let me switch over to you.
Well, I could see Trump, in hindsight now saying, when I first started running in 2015, I mentioned building a 30-foot wall with gates and, keeping people out and only letting people in that we want in our country. I could see that I was wrong. I think it should be a 40-foot wall.
The wall just got 10 feet taller.
And I think we need to have 2 of them.
Good one.
Have robot AI in between the 2 walls. And if you make it over one, heaven help you if you can't make it over the second one.
Yeah, they're eating the dogs. Okay, let me get on to the next thing. All right, so politically, interestingly, we're going to get to this in a minute, the latest polling and stuff, which you have to be careful of. But Kamala Harris, it obviously realizes there's some problems. There was reports around that all of her campaign staffers were already polishing up their resumes and looking for other jobs because they know they're not going to have one in about 3 more weeks. And there are lots of internal polls. Donald Trump is extremely relaxed. He's very confident. His internal polls must be telling him things that we aren't hearing about. And we're going to talk about polls. But what she decided to do is go on a series of television appearances. She went on The View, Good luck. That's really going to help you with nobody. She went on some podcast where they talk about, oral, sex all the time. That only has 170,000 subscribers. That's not going anywhere.
Oh, by the way, hold on. Can somebody take a clip of that last 2 seconds and turn it into a GIF or a GIF, and we can kind of use that as like a reoccurring thing?
Yeah. All right, there you go. If you can't make it out of that, I don't know what you can make it out of, guys. But then she went on 60 Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Because 60 Minutes was trying so hard. The reporter there, the scumbag piece of shit reporter, trying so hard to help Come Swallow Horace, and failed so miserably that they've now had to go back and actually edit their original broadcast, where their broadcast was mocked because of her insipid, incoherent answer. Let's watch now the edit that 60 Minutes is doing. This is how desperate they are to try to get Harris, and let me see if I can just bring it up here. Let me try to make Harris look less stupid than she actually is. Let's go there.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill.
Okay, so what they did is they actually clipped an answer from another question and put it in place of this question and re-uploaded the broadcast because they got mocked. So again, boys, let's go through this. Brooks, you seem like you are the most motivated to start. Why don't you tell us what you think about this? This is election interference, and CBS, I think, should lose their broadcast license for that.
Oh my God, I've never seen anything. I mean, I've seen them where they edited things that Trump said, that Candace Owens said, but I've never seen them take a coherent answer for another question and insert it into a question that they actually asked her and she gave a different answer. I've never seen anything like that. This is absolute deception at the highest level.
Yeah. Let me start by saying I was raised in a middle-class family. What do you think about it? Oh my God, I couldn't believe it when Vance did that last week. Yeah, it was only a week ago, Brian. 1 week ago was the VP debate. It seems like forever ago. Time is accelerating as we drop into the wormhole towards the singularity. Blake, your thoughts on this convenient edit by 60 Minutes?
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, she had a good time, I guess, on The View and Howard Stern and maybe Stephen Colbert. I don't know what other rounds, but when she got on 60 Minutes, they can be serious when they want to be. Yeah, she was caught off guard, so they had to blatantly just edit that whole thing. But now we all see what they've done with it and how she's stumbled through other parts of it. And she's just not qualified to be there. They have to do everything possible to pre-record or have somebody hold her hand and pre-scripted, and she still fails.
Yeah. Brian, I've never seen anything like this in a presidential campaign. And here's the thing. They uploaded the original answer, and then now they took it down and replaced it. This is like worse than Hitler and Stalin. This is insanity, is it not?
Yeah, it reminds you of that picture that goes around where it's like there's 3 people on the side of the boat, and then it's Photoshop. Now there's 2 people on the side of the boat. That other person never existed. This is a perfect example of what Scott Adams refers to as a Rupar. Aaron Rupar selectively edits middle parts of a conversation out to change the meaning, like in the Farm People hoax, when he goes, "Now I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and they should be condemned in unequivocally, not the neo-Nazis and not the fascists." But that's what a Rupar is. I've never seen this, like to Brooks' point that he was making. I've never seen them change the answer to kind of just plug and play your You're build a candidate. It's like the Build-A-Bear station at the mall, build a candidate. But yeah, Kamala Harris, I have never seen someone say so much without saying a damn thing. I think she's unkamalified for office.
Yeah, unqualified for office. Yeah, it is quite extraordinary. All right, you brought up the political situation earlier, Brian, and I wanted to go into some stuff. There's some polls that have been coming out, and they are all devastatingly bad for Kamala Harris. For instance, this is one from Democracy Institute, which is in fact a pretty left-leaning pollster. They have nationally Trump up 3. If Trump wins the popular vote by 3, it's going to be like 500 electoral votes. I mean, it's going to be insane. Pennsylvania, Trump +4. Wisconsin, Trump +2. Michigan, Trump +1. Virginia, Harris 2. New Hampshire, Harris 2. Minnesota, Harris 4. Those are all really bad numbers for Harris. And let me just be honest with you. Trump is winning Virginia, he is winning in New Hampshire, and he's winning in Minnesota. So, this is a biased poll, but even the biases are coming out in favor of Donald Trump. And when you correct for the polling error of 4 to 4.5%, there's another guy who did some other analysis. It's actually Trump +7, Trump +8 nationally, Trump +8 in Pennsylvania, Trump +6 in Wisconsin, 5 in Michigan, 2 in Virginia, 2 in New Hampshire, even in Minnesota. That means Trump is going to win all of those states, which means it will be an electoral blowout. But the question now becomes, Brooks, does this mean anything? Because we all know Donald Trump's going to win in a massive landslide, and it looks like it's shaping up to be historic. But are they going to allow an actual, real, free, and fair election to take place?
This is the big question, because the global syndicate already knows what you know and I know. They already know these numbers. They know that if this election takes place and it actually functions the way Laura Trump wants it to function, they're going to not only lose the White House, they're going to lose 3, maybe 4 Senate seats, 20 to 30 congressional seats. They're going to be out of power for a generation. And that's enough time to fix the stuff that's gone wrong with our agency government, especially if Elon Musk gets in there and starts trimming agencies out of the way. They cannot let this happen. They have way too much money invested, and they want their world back. They ruled this world for 5,000 years. And then America came along and screwed everything up. They tried to defeat us several times in several wars and could not. So they infiltrated our government in the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations, and they took over our country. Well, we got wise to it, and now we want it back. And this, they're going to stop it somehow. Either they're not going to have an election, but let me add 2 things really quick. If there was a red button that Kamala Harris could press that would give people stomach cancer, she would break her legs to push that button, and then she would push it over and over and over again, and then she'd give it to her husband to wear as a talisman. That's how desperate she is. The second thing is, yesterday there was a meeting between FEMA and Biden, and Jill Biden was there. Kamala Harris staffers accused them of cutting Kamala out and trying to be involved. And Jill Biden and the Kamala staffers got in a physical altercation. It wasn't just shouting, they were shoving. There is no peace in the White House right now. It's coming apart.
Yeah, that was really quite extraordinary. I did hear about that, and it is a believable story. Brian, what do you think about? I mean, what do you think the chances are that a real election is going to be held? And if it is, what are the chances that Donald Trump wins? What do you think about it?
Yeah, back in 2020, you're like, well, you were the president for 4 years. If you knew they were going to cheat, it's kind of your fault for letting them get away with it, eh? Like, oh, military, trust the plan. Well, okay, cool story, bro. Like, where was that red wave 2 years ago? But we all kind of have this feeling in our gut that the nation is overwhelmingly voting in support of MAGA. But are the polls, are the final results showing you anything accurate? I think some of this is going to come down to how well the Republicans were able to manage the lawfare situation and the region to region, county by county balloting questions over the past few years. I mean, whether it's Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, I mean, go to like the same 7 states that all magically paused on election night in 2020 with a totally safe and secure election, the only one that's never been tampered with in the history of elections.
Right.
You know, if what they did to secure the voting in those states worked, Trump wins in a landslide. He should win close to 42 states. And that's the only thing that's going to ratchet down the temperature of the country if it's not close. If it's close, it's going to be chaos. But if it's a blowout, it's going to be sit down, shut up. It's really going to be how did the Republican Party maneuver the legal system to make sure that enough safeguards were put in so that you can't have a potentially wide open situation for rife with fraud opportunities. So we'll see what we'll see after the fact. Were they successful in fixing a bunch of the glitches and vulnerabilities or not? I don't know.
We'll see. Blake, your thoughts on the election and Trump's chances? I mean, I think that they are brazen enough that they will do the same thing again. They will shut down the voting in 5 or 6 states and try to stuff the ballot box again. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if it's, fair, transparent, he wins on a landslide. I think they fear what was going to happen. I think they won in a landslide in 2016 and overwhelmed them. And in 2020, they pulled up all the stops, including perhaps even engineering a pandemic to take over the country. So, yeah, they are desperate. They are backed into a corner. They have to win because they know what's going to happen to them. So they're fighting for their own survival. So they have nothing to lose. So they have to do whatever it takes, and they're going to maybe find some new tricks. But that is my biggest concern is how are they going to try to cheat in 2024?
Well, I can actually guarantee you that, and I'm not going to say the P word that you just used. I'm not going to use it, but I can guarantee you that the thing was engineered, that it absolutely was engineered, because I had dinner the other night with a friend of mine who I call the mechanic. And if you look up the movies that have that name, there's 2 of them. You will understand what he used to do for the U.S. government. And he called me about 10 days before anybody had ever heard the word, there we are having dinner the other night, had ever heard the word COVID. And he said, there's going to be a virus, and it's genetically targeted to Asian population and the Indian population. And they're hoping to take out at least 30 million people. Now, it failed in that, but he told me less than 10 days before that it was going to happen. And he knows some people. And so it was guaranteed. And the question now is, Blake, has our side maneuvered them to the point that that they don't have that option? They don't have another option like that. I mean, really, what can they do besides an alien invasion to create martial law and put a stop? I guess there has been an alien invasion in the sense of all these illegal immigrants and terrorists that have been put right over the southern border. Other than that, I don't see what they can do to stop the inevitable this time around. Anybody have any thoughts on that while I turn this off?
Last time we got burned because they should have had the perfect maneuver of watermarking the ballots.
Right.
But it turns out they didn't. So hopefully they have some kind of trick up their sleeve like that.
Either they didn't or they did, and then for some fucking insane reason they didn't use it because, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to know what the thinking was on that. Okay, guys, one last thing before we get out of here. A little humor. Yes, the VP debate was just 1 week ago, and last Saturday on Saturday Night Live, they actually did a skit on it. Now, SNL is the most libtard, left-wing bullshit show on TV, maybe next to John Oliver or maybe somebody dumb like Stephen Colbert, but they actually did do a satire of the vice presidential debate. And let's watch just a little bit of it from the other night, because it is pretty damn.
Jen, you ignorant slut. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, he's out there. He's doing his thing, whatever that may be. Come on, just relax. You know, you haven't had a night off in 3 months. Do you want to watch something less stressful like the Menendez Brothers show?
I don't know, Dougie. I kind of wish I had picked Josh right now.
Oh, Josh Shapiro?
No, Josh. Cabernet.
Look, Tim will be fine. It's not like he's going to say something crazy.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Okay, he's out there. He's doing.
So I thought that was pretty good. Friends with school shooters. Yeah, it's not like he's going to say something crazy. Yeah, well, maybe it is like he's going to say something crazy. And there were a few other bits. But let's look at it like this. If the liberals are going after you in the media, you're losing. They're cutting their losses and they're running. Am I wrong, Brian?
They're so cooked. They are so cooked. In a sane world, I mean, this is going to be, you know, we talk about the cataclysm in North Carolina, just a tsunami of water. I mean, this is going to be a red wave unlike we've ever seen. I will say that she does a great job with her voice and her laugh. It made like the hair stand up on my neck, and I cringed. She does a very good, and that was Jim Gaffigan, right? Was that Gaffigan doing Tim Walsh?
Yeah,
that was excellent. Thank you, universe, for making that happen. And just kind of watching his crazy eyes and his hands, like he's got the mannerisms down. Which you know, it's Kennedy versus JFK. If you listen, you talk about or Kennedy versus JFK. Of course, I'm talking about Nixon. But yeah, if you watch it, Walls is all over the place. Good job, Gaffigan. Good job, SNL.
Yeah, Blake, any thoughts on that one or anything to add?
It's great to see them come around a little bit and poke some fun at their side. So, and probably as disturbed as we are at some of the things that have happened with Kamala. It's not a good look. Or Tim Walz. There's a lot of material there, so it's good on them to take some advantage of it.
Yeah, and I mean, great humor or satire has truth running through it, and that was absolutely true. And it was just shocking to see them do a skit where they told the truth, right, Brooks?
Oh gosh, that was funny. It reminds me of when Sarah Palin ran and she had that rear admiral as her running mate, and Chris Farley played rear admiral on Saturday Night Live. Yeah. It was hilarious. Great luck. It was hilarious.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you for being here. Long show again, almost an hour and a half. Thanks for being here, everybody, but lots to talk about, lots of issues to cover. Brian, you and Blake stay safe there in Virginia and report on what you can. We appreciate you guys coming on and telling us the truth. Brooks, we'll see you again next week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for catching up. And I'll be back tomorrow with my show with Jen at 10 in the morning, where we talk about finances and other things going on in the political turmoil. And then it's Not Toxically Masculine Tuesday. It is Whiskey and Wisdom, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 Eastern, with me and the original Mark Z. He promises we will be back tomorrow in our regular form, which means Mike Barra's bad dating advice, which, ladies, is actually good dating advice, is coming tomorrow. So there'll be some more Mike Barra's bad dating advice. Remember, guys, first date, drinks and appetizers, you buy the first round, and you pay very close attention to what she orders drink-wise. That'll tell you everything you need to know about the lady you're with right off the bat. And you can decide then if you want to buy her a second round. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget Blake and Brian on the Agree to Disagree show. And Brooks, you're on tomorrow night as well, right? With your night
8 o'clock America Free Radio.
America Free Radio. Thanks for being here, guys. We love each and every one of you out there. Big crowd tonight for our show. So thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.